Elara ran. Not just with her legs, but with every part of her being screaming to escape what hunted her through the dense, ancient forest. The world around her was a tangle of shadows and cold, relentless rain that sliced through her thin cloak, soaking her to the bone. Each icy drop that stung her skin was like a reminder, sharp and brutal, of how alone she truly was. Her breath came out ragged, uneven, a desperate rhythm against the howling wind that whipped the skeletal branches above into a furious dance. The earth beneath her feet was slick and treacherous, wet leaves crunched beneath each pounding step, threatening to betray her. Somewhere close, a low growl slid through the thick fog, a sound soaked in menace and dark purpose. She didn't slow. She couldn't. Every muscle ached with exhaustion, but the fragile spark of power deep inside her, a secret gift she barely controlled, stirred nervously, roots in the soil twisted as if feeling her panic, trying to reach out, to protect. But protection was a luxury she couldn't afford. The pack, the very people who once called her kin, had cast her out. Exiled and branded a threat because of what she was. Because of the strange power she bore, a power they feared but no one understood. They didn't care how fiercely her heart beat beneath her battered ribs or how desperately she clung to the hope that maybe, just maybe, there was a place where she belonged. Her mind spun with 1,000 thoughts at once. Was this the end? Would they catch her this time? Would the story of Elara the gardener vanish into the cold night, just like the fallen leaves crushed underfoot? Yet somewhere beneath the sharp sting of fear, a quiet, stubborn ember refused to die. The ember of survival. Of fighting back. Of not being just a shadow in the darkness. The rain was relentless, drumming a frozen tattoo on the canopy above, matching the storm raging inside her. The forest seemed alive, wild, a breathing nightmare where every step forward was a step deeper into chaos. The world had shifted beneath her feet, not just the earth, but reality itself. Nothing was certain anymore except the pounding of her heart, the ragged breaths escaping her lips, and the creeping doubt that her time to run was almost over. But Elara was not just running from something outside her, she was running from the truth she hadn't yet dared to face. A truth wrapped in mystery, pain, and a power that could either save her or destroy everything she held dear. She stumbled. Her hands clawed at a root, slick with rain, as her knees hit the ground. The cold bit into her skin, but it was nothing compared to the ache deep in her chest, the ache of rejection, the ache of being hunted like a beast when all she wanted was to grow, to live, to heal. Her whispered prayers dissolved into the storm, hope slipping through fingers clenched against the cold. Yet even as the wolves closed in, with eyes burning like coals in the night, something unseen watched. Something powerful. Something waiting for the right moment to intervene. The forest seemed to hold its breath, the wind momentarily hushed, as if sensing that this was not the end, but the beginning of something far greater. Elara pushed herself up, trembling, soaked, vulnerable, but not broken. She was more than a simple gardener cast aside. Beneath the rain-slick hair and dirt-streaked face beat the heart of a warrior, a key to a destiny that even she did not fully understand. Her power flickered again, roots shifting, leaves rustling as if whispering secrets only she could hear. This was her fight. Her story. And it was just beginning. If you want to walk beside Elara, to witness the raw beauty of strength born from pain, and discover the secrets hidden deep in the shadows of the wolf-filled night, subscribe to Olivia Werewolf Tales. Because here, we don't just tell stories. We live them. Together. The forest seemed to hold its breath, the cold rain blurring the world into shadow and silence, just as the sound of the wolf's growl surged closer, a chorus of hunger and menace closing in like unforgiving steel jaws. Elara's heart nearly stopped, pounding a frantic rhythm that threatened to tear her from her fragile resolve. Every instinct screamed to run, to vanish into the night, but there was nowhere left to hide. Then, through the skeletal embrace of the ancient trees, a figure appeared. A storm embodied in flesh and bone. He moved like a force of nature, breaking through the branches with a purpose that shook the air around him. Tall, broad-shouldered, cloaked in shadow and rain, his eyes were silver, glowing faintly as if lit from within by the cold light of the full moon. They pierced through the darkness, locking onto Elara with a grip that was fierce and unyielding. There was something in those eyes, something wild and untamed but also deeply knowing. It was a look that carried both danger and a strange, magnetic pull, twisting her blood and breath around a knot of confusion and heat. He stepped into the clearing, his presence a thunderclap amidst the quiet fear. "Why run from your fate, Elara?" His voice was low, smooth as velvet but edged with iron. "I've been watching, waiting for this moment." The words struck her like a blow, but beneath the shock was a flicker of something, hope or dread, she couldn't tell. How could he know her name? Why had he been watching? The question spun in her mind, but her body tensed, ready to fight or flee. The wolf circled nearer, eyes flashed fierce in the underbrush, but the alpha, this enigmatic savior, did not flinch. Instead, he planted himself firmly between her and the encroaching darkness, his stance a shield forged from raw power. The air around him crackled, charged with an energy that was both beautiful and terrifying. "Elara," he said again, softer now, shadows flickering across his features. His eyes searched hers, and in that moment, the weight of exile, the sting of betrayal seemed to lift, if only slightly. The world narrowed to the space between them, a fragile thread woven from fear, mistrust, and something deeper, something aching to be understood. Her breath hitched. The rain caught in her eyelashes, blurring the edges of his face into something almost unreal, like a dream imprinted with sharp edges. Every instinct told her to push him away, to distrust the sharp glint in his eyes, the secrets buried behind his guarded expression, but beneath the wall of caution, a flicker of longing cracked through. She was tired of running. Tired of the cold rejection. And here he was, a beast as fierce and damaged as herself, standing in the storm beside her, a promise wrapped in danger. "Who are you?" Her voice trembled, raw and small. "A wolf bound by blood and burden," he replied, voice rough like gravel but steady as the earth beneath their feet. "And I know what you are, Elara. What you're meant to be." Lightning flashed across the sky, illuminating the sharp angles of his face, strong jaw set, lips pressed tight as if carrying a secret too heavy for words. He stepped closer, the distance shrinking, his gaze never faltering from hers. She felt the pull. The shiver of something wild inside her, awakened by his nearness, by the weight of his gaze. It was terrifying and thrilling all at once. "You don't have to hide," he said. "Not from me. Not anymore." But fear gripped her, injured, hunted, betrayed before. Trust was a blade that cut both ways, yet, the way he carried himself, the shadows wrapped around him like armor, told a story of a man fighting his own battles. And perhaps, just perhaps, they could fight them together. The wolves weren't the only danger lurking in the night, there was something else, something ancient, tied to their fates like a cruel thread. And with this silver-eyed alpha before her, Elara's story took a new, uncertain turn. The storm raged around them, but in that moment between rain and silence, beneath whispered secrets of the forest, a fragile alliance was forged, not with words, but with the untamed power that hummed through their veins. She was no longer alone. And the hunt was only just beginning. Elara's breath steadied for a moment, her body still trembling from the near escape. But beneath the rain-soaked branches, her mind drifted, pulled back to the memories she thought she had buried deep, to the night when her world cracked apart like dry earth under the weight of cold moonlight. She saw it all again, the faces turned against her like a pack of wolves no different from those in the forest, eyes filled with fear and hatred. They called her cursed. Called her power unnatural. The silver bloom, a rare and forbidden gift, had blossomed within her against every rule they lived by. It wasn't just power over plants or earth anymore. It was something deeper. Life and decay woven at her fingertips. A force terrifying in its beauty and destructive in its truth. She remembered how they had whispered behind her back, how they had sneered with voices cold as winter's breath. How the council, those supposed guardians of their kind, branded her a threat to the balance they fought so hard to protect. The exile was swift and merciless, an unspoken sentence that left her alone to wander, hunted, a ghost marked by fear. Her heart tightened with every recollection, the sting of their rejection sinking like thorns. Yet beneath the pain, resilience took root. The will to survive, to prove the world wrong, burned like a fierce and solitary flame deep inside. She clenched her fists, feeling the wet earth pulse faintly beneath her palms, a fragile reminder of the power that both cursed and saved her. The howling wolves faded into the distance for a heartbeat, replaced by the echoing voices of those lost nights. Danger, they said. Destroyer. The pack who should have been her family turned their backs. She was alone, but stronger for it. Then, a different presence stirred her soul, closer now, that of the silver-eyed alpha standing in the storm's heart. He was a shadow from her past, and yet, something new. His presence unsettled the carefully constructed walls she had built, stirring a cautious hope deep within her guarded heart. The weight of his gaze was heavier this time, but it was not just suspicion, it was something softer, something dangerous in its vulnerability. Elara's thoughts raced in a tangled storm of doubt and longing. Could she trust him? Did she even want to? She had been betrayed before. By those who promised protection and delivered exile. But this man, with that flicker of pain hidden beneath his fierce exterior, held a piece of a puzzle she hadn't dared to solve. Her inner voice whispered, a quiet resilience that pushed through the fear. I am more than their fears. I am more than the exile they handed me. And in that whispered defiance, a fragile ember of belonging flared. The rain continued its relentless fall around them, blending with the tears Elara didn't allow herself to shed. Her scars, hidden beneath bruised skin and battle-weary breaths, were reminders not just of pain but of survival. Each one a testament to battles fought alone, to power misunderstood and feared. As the alpha stepped closer, the air between them crackled not only with the storm but with unspoken truths. His presence, both a challenge and a promise, drew her from the shadows she had hidden in for so long. The forest whispered secrets old as time, and in that sacred silence, they stood as two solitary souls entangled in a destiny neither fully understood. Elara's heart beat fierce and wild, torn between the past that haunted her and the uncertain future beckoning in silver-eyed gaze. She wasn't just a gardener anymore, she was the spark that could either ignite or consume, and beneath the scars, that burning ember yearned to rise. The hunted was ready to fight back. The ancient grove emerged through the thick mist like a secret whispered by the earth itself, its air heavy with the scent of damp moss and old magic. Silver light filtered through twisted branches carved with ancient runes, their symbols glowing faintly as if breathing with power long forgotten by most of the world. Every step Elara took felt like crossing a threshold, between the known and the unknowable, between fear and destiny. Her heart pounded sharply, each beat a drum calling her deeper into the mystery. The soft rustle of leaves, the hum of unseen life, even the whisper of the wind felt alive with meaning. Legends spoke here, tales once shared in hushed tones around fires, the kind that elders spoke of only when shadows were longest. The stories called her the gardener with the mark, the one chosen by roots and blood to unite the scattered wolf packs and heal a fractured realm. Yet despite the pull of those words, doubt clenched her soul like icy fingers. Could she, broken, hunted, and unsure, even be worthy of such a cruel, heavy fate? What if she was nothing more than a fading ember, destined to sputter out before dawn? The runes glowed brighter as though responding to her turmoil, light playing tricks on her eyes. In the misty haze, visions shimmered, ghostly and fragmented but impossibly vivid, a crown of thorns resting heavy on her head, sharp and intriguing. A fierce wolf standing guard faithfully by her side, its eyes mirroring silver flames, a wildfire of renewal burning through dead forests, promising destruction and rebirth entwined. Each image seared into her like a promise and a threat all at once. She fought to steady her breath, to anchor herself against the swirling tide of prophecy and expectation. The earth underfoot pulsed faintly, a heartbeat in sync with hers, reminding her she was tethered not just to her pain but to a story far larger than herself. The alpha shifted beside her, a steadying presence in the shifting shadows, his eyes reflecting the dancing light of ancient magic. For the first time since her exile, she felt seen, not as a danger or an outcast, but as a key piece of something vast and dangerous beyond her understanding. Yet, the weight of destiny was a heavy cloak, and fear was a constant companion whispering in her ear. Could she bear the burden? Or would the child of earth and shadow become just another forgotten myth lost in the mists of time? A low wind stirred the grove, carrying the prophecy like a breath from the wild itself. It whispered through the leaves and spiraled around their feet, a voice ancient and mournful, full of promise and peril. The prophecy whispered through the leaves, carried by the wind, the child of earth and shadow would reclaim the throne of wolves. Elara's fingers brushed along the bark of a rune-carved tree, feeling a strange warmth seep through her damp skin. Time seemed to stretch, bending around her, filled with possibilities and threats tangled like vines. Each choice she made now would ripple outward, shaping not just her fate but the fate of every pack torn by blood and betrayal. She closed her eyes and felt the raw pulse of life surge beneath her, a wild and aching reminder that roots, no matter how shattered, always seek the light around them. The grove held its breath, waiting for the spark to ignite, and in that suspended moment, Elara knew, her story was no longer hers alone. It belonged to every soul searching for light in the shadows, every heart longing for belonging. Every wolf waiting for a leader to rise. The promise of the prophecy was both a salvation and a storm. And Elara was standing at its fierce, trembling edge. The grove, once a place of sacred calm, erupted into chaos with a suddenness that seared through the thick mist like a jagged lightning bolt. Shadows peeled away from the trees, rival alphas' minions, wolves twisted by anger and dark purpose, emerged in snarling waves. Their eyes glowed with hunger not only for blood but for the extinguishing of a prophecy they feared. The air thickened with tension, every ragged breath heavy with the weight of impending violence. Elara's heart slammed against her ribs as the world around her fractured under the weight of betrayal and battle. The ancient ritual meant to bind the packs in fragile unity shattered in an instant. Accusations flew sharper than claws, whispers twisted into roars, loyalties crumbled like brittle leaves beneath the storm of rage. Faces twisted with fear and hatred turned toward her, the exile branded once more as a harbinger of doom. The sacred grove, where once the air pulsed with whispered promises and the light of destiny, now echoed with the harsh cries of revolt. The pack structure, a delicate web of power and trust, trembled as those loyal to the old order sought to smother the spark Elara carried. The alpha who had stood by her side was torn, a fierce war raging behind his silver eyes. The call of pack loyalty pulling him one way, and the fierce protection of the woman he'd come to see as more than exile pulling him another. He was warned in sharp tones, cold as steel, choose your allegiance or face exile and bloodshed himself. Voices collided in sharp, bitter commands. Elara was ordered to leave, to vanish into the night once again, to become nothing but a shadow. Her power, the essence of the prophecy, was deemed too dangerous, too unpredictable, a threat to the fragile balance under the blood-red moon, painted harsh and unforgiving in the sky, hearts shattered like fragile glass. Wolves held their challenge, a sound raw and primal that tore through the night and echoed in Elara's bones. It was a call to war, a fracture deep enough to rend the very soul of their world. As the pack fractured, Elara and the alpha's eyes locked. Words left unsaid swirling like smoke between them. The distance between hope and heartbreak stretched impossibly wide. What was once a fragile alliance now hung by a thread soaked in moonlight and fury. The night swallowed their parting, cloaking their separation in shadows and regret, and the world, fractured, wild, and waiting, readied itself for the storm to come. The flickering firelight cast long shadows on the rough walls of the hidden cave, soft warmth pushing back against the chill of the night outside. Silence settled between Elara and the alpha, heavy but charged, an unspoken invitation to unearth the truths they'd both buried beneath layers of pain and armor. The forest beyond pulsed faintly with distant sounds, as if reluctant to invade this fragile space where two broken souls sought refuge. He broke the quiet first, voice low and rough, threaded with the ghosts of scars no one else could see. They don't know the battles I've fought. The weight of pack expectations, the ghosts of my past. His silver eyes dimmed with a sorrow born of lost kin and failed promises. Every word was a shard of vulnerability he rarely allowed to surface, an offering forged in trust and desperation. Elara's breath hitched. She saw not the alpha or the powerful shifter, but the man beneath. The one haunted by his own storms and shadows. The hardness that others feared softened here. She placed trembling fingers over the hidden nerves of her own secret, the source of her power and pain, the silver bloom, a gift and a curse wrapped in ancient lineage and forbidden power. I've carried it alone, hidden. Feared, exiled, she whispered, voice fragile but fierce. but it's who I am. And what they fear. The fire crackled, a sharp contrast to the quiet confession, its light mirroring the flicker of hope and fear between them. The air thickened with a tension both electric and tender, the kind that pulls two hearts toward a razor-thin edge where trust and surrender meet. Their gazes locked, a near kiss poised on trembling lips, the world shrinking to the delicate breath shared between them. Elara's heart hammered loud enough to drown out the beating storm outside. Her thoughts tangled. Could she trust this fierce protector, this enigma with eyes like moonlight and heartache? Could he see her, truly see her, beneath the wounds and whispered fears, and yet the night held its breath as if waiting for her answer? Trust me or leave, he murmured, voice barely more than a caress, and somewhere deep inside, Elara knew her choice would change everything. Under the moon's embrace, two souls danced between fear and hope, each daring to trust the other, navigating the fragile line between shadow and light, exile and belong.In that quiet cave, surrounded by whispering earth and pulsing life, the first threads of a fierce, untamed bond began to weave, invisible yet unbreakable. Square root, they were no longer alone, and love, wild and dangerous, had found a way to grow. Betrayal cut deeper than any wound Elara had ever known, a sharp, poisoned blade twisting in the fragile heart of her newfound hope. It was not a stranger's hand that betrayed her, no, it was one born from trust, a pack member sworn to silence who revealed the secret she had guarded with every breath. Whispers spread like wildfire through the pack, charging the air with fear and loathing. Her power, the silver bloom that coursed through her veins, was no longer a gift but a curse that threatened to unravel everything. The council convened in cold judgment, their eyes hardened with suspicion and dread. Elara stood alone amid the tribunal, facing condemnation not as a warrior or savior, but as the embodiment of danger. Voices rose in accusation, ancient laws twisted to bind her in exile once more, their words a noose tightening around her soul. To them, she was the storm's eye, the unpredictable force that could shatter packs and lives alike, the alpha, torn between the fierce loyalty demanded by his role and the fierce love kindled in his heart, hesitated at the crossroads of duty and desire. His gaze wavered, caught in the tempest of his own conflicts, protect the pack, or protect the woman who had become his anchor. His silence spoke volumes, heavy with the weight of a choice that could fracture the delicate balance they fought so hard to maintain. Elara's fury ignited like kindling set ablaze by a fierce wind. The sting of betrayal transformed into a blazing defiance, a storm burning fierce and unbowed. Her hands trembled with power long suppressed, the silver bloom flaring amidst the shadows, roots twisting and rising, crackling with life and destruction intertwined. The cursed power became her weapon and shield, a testament that she was neither victim nor victimizer, but a force forged in fire. The air thickened, charged with magic and raw emotion, as the assembly recoiled from the fierce luminous glow. From the ashes of betrayal, Elara rose, not broken, but unbroken. The spark rekindled, an ember ignited into a flame that would not be extinguished. In her eyes blazed a promise. A reckoning for those who had cast her aside and a beacon for those who still believed. Her defiance was a war cry, a challenge to a world afraid of the truth she carried within. And though the shadows gathered close, the fierce light of the silver bloom vowed to burn brighter still, relentless and wild. From the ashes of betrayal, a fierce storm rose, unbroken and unbowed. The night was alive with trembling energy as Elara returned to the sacred grove, the air thick with the scent of earth and ancient power. Around her, the world seemed to hold its breath, every leaf, every root, every shadow poised on the edge of transformation. Her footsteps stirred the soil, and beneath her feet, a deep pulse echoed, the heartbeat of the land itself awakening to her presence. This was no longer the hunted girl hiding in the storms of doubt. This was a woman reborn from fire and betrayal, standing tall as the guardian of everything she loved. Her hands, once trembling with fear, now radiated a fierce light, a silver flame that shimmered and danced, casting shadows that flickered like spirits called forth from forgotten realms. The ancestral wolf within her voice rose, an echo that rippled through the grove, calling to the old spirits who watched from the edges of time. The ground trembled beneath her, roots twisting and surging upwards as if eager to protect their chosen. The air shimmered with raw energy, alive with the fury and beauty of a power embraced and claimed. Enemies converged, a corrupt alpha and his dark minions, their faces twisted with greed and a hunger for control that threatened to consume all. But Elara met them with unflinching eyes, her furious storm that no blade or word could quell. Each step she took caused the earth to roar beneath her, the silver bloom in full blaze, a radiant force of nature that demanded respect, fear, and awe. The battle was fierce and desperate, a clash of wills and power that shattered the fragile calm of the grove. But Elara stood unbroken, the guardian not just of a place but of a destiny that refused to be denied. Her voice, a song of earth, flame, and wolf, carried unstoppable through the chaos. No longer the hunted, she was the storm incarnate. Fierce, wild, and resolute, she was the guardian of earth, flame, and fate itself, and in her strength, the world began to shift. Elara stood at the edge of the world, her silhouette carved sharp against the flickering flames of the burnished grove. The air was thick with silence, yet electric, heavy with the weight of decisions yet to be made, of paths twisting through shadow and light. Her breath came steady now, but her eyes held a fierce storm, a fire caught in a fragile balance between hope and danger. Would you choose her light, or fear the fire she wields? This was no longer the simple story of a hunted exile or a fragile girl with a cursed gift. She was both savior and storm, an enigma wrapped in silver flame and primal strength feared by those who dared only whisper her name. The world watched, waiting behind shuttered eyes and trembling hearts, uncertain whether to embrace the promise she bore or to recoil from the power they could barely comprehend. Her hands, marked by ancient power and scars yet tender with fierce love, trembled with the burden of choice, not just hers, but that of everyone who dared to stand in her shadow. The fire around her cracked and leapt, shadows dancing wildly as if reflecting the chaos inside every soul watching. In her silence lay a challenge, an invitation to see beyond the fear, beyond the whispers, to the unyielding spirit that refused to be broken. Would you stand beside her in the gathering storm? Would you embrace the wild flame that could burn and heal in the same breath? If this tale stirred your soul, subscribe to Olivia Werewolf Tales, where stories burn bright and shadows reveal truth, because every legend deserves to be heard. Every fire, no matter how fierce, seeks its home, and this story is just beginning. The fire's glow flickered and waned, shadows lengthening as the night gave way to the uncertain blush of dawn. Elara stood side by side with the Alpha, their figures melded into the soft gray light that crept over the horizon, two warriors marked by battle, bound by more than just fate. The wind whispered around them, carrying the scent of earth and rain, of promise and peril intertwined like threads of a fragile tapestry. Yet beneath the fragile calm, the very ground beneath their feet began to tremble, a subtle, shuddering pulse that whispered secrets long buried. The earth groaned softly, trembling with a life that stirred from deep below, ancient and waiting. Out of the shifting darkness, a voice slithered, low and haunting. She is not the only one, it breathed, a promise wrapped in shadow. The true Alpha has yet to rise. The words lingered like a ghost, wrapping around the dawn, seeping into bone and blood alike. It was a warning. A challenge. A call to a greater reckoning that neither Elara nor the Alpha could yet see clearly. The story was far from over, the night still held its mysteries in its cold, unyielding grasp. As the first light painted the sky with hues of silver and blood, Elara's heart pounded, not with victory but with resolve. She could feel the weight of what was to come, a destiny that stretched far beyond the sacred grove, beyond pack and prophecy. Together, they stepped forward into the unknown, their shadows casting long lines into a future tangled with danger and hope. The world held its breath, and the war for the true Alpha, for the soul of the pack, was only just beginning. As the first light of dawn stretches across the horizon, Elara and the Alpha walk forward. United yet uncertain, their journey far from over. Their story, tangled with shadows and fire, leaves us wondering, will they rise together to face the storms ahead? Or will the darkness tear them apart? Thank you for joining this tale of courage, love, and destiny. If Elara's journey stirred something deep within you, don't forget to subscribe to Olivia Werewolf Tales, where every story burns bright, shadows come alive, and the fight for belonging never ends. Until next time, keep your hearts wild and your spirits fierce. This is just the beginning.